the stay at home, I think it caused us to take a breath and really kind of look at what our day looked like. And things were very different for us as a family.
As the pandemic was happening, there's more and more information coming on our end that possibly we were going to have to close, other facilities were closing. And so actually on March 16th, that morning, my boss told us that the facility would be closing at 4 p.m. for an unknown period of time.
Local restaurants were starting to shut down due to the pandemic. We were all ordered to stay at home, and many restaurants had refrigerators full of eggs or milk or leftover produce, and they knew they would be closed for a long amount of time. So they reacted by donating things to the Open Door. But the Open Door then ran into trouble with space. They didn't have enough refrigerator space, so I was able to help when needed there.
So we were a couple of weeks into the pandemic, and we got a call from an American Red Cross worker who was trying to help a family who had just experienced a house fire. They were struggling to find resources in the community that were open, and so what they were looking for were things like clothing and food and just other resources for the family. She was very relieved when I said we could help, and so I took down the family's number and gave a call to Ernest.
So we had him and his wife come to Emmanuel Baptist Church, and they were able to get clothing for their children, for themselves. And then we were getting tons of donations coming in from restaurants and schools and everything, because things were shutting down with the pandemic. So we were able to provide them with just an abundance of food.
I got online while I was still at my desk, and I know about the Open Door. I had served a Thanksgiving dinner some years ago. I had been part of volunteering for a Thanksgiving dinner, so I Googled Open Door, and I don't remember exactly what the information was, but they were looking for help needed. So I either called or emailed, and I think Vicki got in touch with me, and that was the beginning of a very good relationship of volunteering at the Open Door.
I just thought that we're home, we're young, we're healthy. This could be a time where we could be his hands and feet. So I saw that opportunity, and we called, and we came as a family.
But they still needed to get into a place because there were how many people living in? 15 people living in
a one bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, they were able to find a place, but the cost was going to be $2,500 for them to move in. So they had $1,000 at the start, but needed the $1,500 for deposit. So we were contacting churches and other agencies to try and help get them some assistance with that deposit cost to get them into their place.
And there was a connection point during the economic impact payments where Heather worked with the family to request those funds to further help them pay for their rental and cover costs that they needed. But there was a waiting period before that came in.
But then things just got impacted and multiplied by the thousands when the flood happened, when the dams failed. And that was an immediate need. No one saw that coming. And so many more people needed help, and we're starting to rely on the Open Door for meals for their entire families. And that was really when the Red Cross, I believe, teamed up with the Open Door, and the Open Door was helping serve meals for the Red Cross. So they had additional hundreds of meals to serve a day, and like I said, they didn't have refrigerator space, and I did. So I just continued to help when needed.
So we had evacuated both shelters. The men and the women were at Emmanuel Baptist Church. And the next day, I got a call from Ernest in tears that almost 30 days to the day, the home that they had just moved into was flooded. They'd lost most of their belongings, their furniture, their brand new bed that he and his wife had. Her parents were still in town visiting, so he now needed to take care of this entire family. And he called because he said he just couldn't believe it was happening and didn't know what else to do. So I had him come over to the church, and we worked together with him, his wife, and his mother-in-law to find clothing for the family, connected them with food again, and made sure that they had resources to get through that week. So once again, they found themselves without adequate housing. They had moved back into the one bedroom with that large amount of people again, and were struggling to have space to comfortably sleep. Ernest was still going to work almost every day per his schedule. He was still trying to maintain food, clothing, and shelter for his family when we heard about the opportunity that was happening through the Red Cross at a local hotel. So we contacted Ernest and his family and let them know that the hotel had space for them. And they actually had 2 bedrooms where their kids could sleep comfortably. Her mom and dad were there with them. The adults, everyone had a bed and a place to stay for a few weeks while they helped work on their rental and get it back to being safe so that they could move back in.
The Open Door welcomed us in, and we started with serving the lunches here, which we had not done before the stay at home, so I did not realize the seating went on inside, and so now it was happening outside, so we learned how that worked. And it was really amazing. We were super happy to have somewhere where we could come and give of our time.
The format of doing the lunches, which were grab and go, again, the organization that comes from the staff here, Renee and Victoria and the people that are working here, the organization of the food lines and the runners to delivering food outside, and the people that are greeting the guests that came up the walkway, and not only giving them food, but giving them conversation and a smile. No hugs, sadly, but it's a very, I was going to say well-oiled machine, but it was never really chaotic, even when it was busy and there's lots of people and you're cooking food and there's dishwashers going on, but there's conversation and camaraderie, and it just was super.
I would love for the community to know, just in the short time that I was able to be a part of the Open Door, which I hope continues in some way, I would like them to know that we're so blessed as a community to have the Open Door. I think that a lot of people would be surprised to find out what goes on here and how many different places the Open Door is able to have their hands in and helping people, whether it be providing a warm, safe place for them to get back on their feet and find work and share meals together, or it be something like the Open Door becoming a vessel in our community when things like the pandemic and the flood happen. I think that we are so blessed to have it, and there's such a strong group working together here, and I think that if you have any free time, you would just fall in love with the Open Door like I did in coming and just giving of your time. I know that after you come, they're so welcoming and just saying, like, you know, this is the time I have, or Saturdays work for me, or we could show up as a family at this time, and they will find a spot for you. I think, like I said, it's amazing to come and be the person that is like serving others, and you think that, you know, you're coming and doing this wonderful thing, which you are. I'm super grateful for that opportunity, but what that gives back to you yourself in just having a spot in our community that you're able to just come and serve is, it really just fills your heart, and I think that everybody in our community could benefit from that.
Volunteers are a big part of an organization like this as well, and so that the help is needed, that there are people that need help and organizations that need that help to make it happen. whether it's through time or money or so. And again, it's not a job to volunteer for it because it's very enjoyable to work with the people and meet the guests and to know that you're part of this organization in Midland. We have so many amazing organizations in Midland, from our civic and cultural organizations to the organizations that are serving the public, like the Open Door.
If you have ever found yourself hungry or looking into a pantry with no food, looking into a fridge with nothing but maybe a stick of butter, half a squeezed bottle of ketchup, and now you're wondering what you're gonna eat for dinner, and not only what you're gonna eat, but what are you gonna feed your children and the rest of your family? The Open Door can really and does really help people with general basic needs. And I commend them and all of the work that they do. And I just, from now moving forward, I commit to be a bigger part of the organization and help when and where I can.
We see crisis every day, multiple times a day. This was a family that had experienced 2 very traumatic crises in a 30-day period, having lost everything twice in 30 days.
I remember Ernest's wife saying, when this is all over, when COVID's over, I'm gonna give you the biggest hug. I'm gonna give all of you the biggest hug. We met in the parking lot, we cried. We talked about God's goodness, even in difficulty. We prayed together and asked for God's grace as they rebuilt their life for a second time in such a short period of time. We prayed for ourselves to trust Him with the future, and for resources to become available. And we walked as we walked from room to room in the clothing area and found the things that they needed. And I'm remembering a moment where we actually were praising God because there was a unique size of clothing that the family had, and something that they weren't able to find in previous searches through clothing, and we were able to find that person a few items that they desperately needed. So it was even in that moment that we saw God's goodness right away, and it was even more encouragement.
Even though they've been rehoused, they got their life put back together through the pandemic. Ernest's hours have been cut at work, so they've come up on another hardship of being able to pay rent. So we've been assisting them with getting the rental assistance to help walk through this with them. They've continued to connect with us and knew that they could come here for that continued help and support. And we thank God that He provided us with this unique situation and opportunity to walk alongside this family who has not been in our shelter. They've not even eaten in our soup kitchens, but we were given the ability to walk alongside them and continue to help them.